Hello, we're here with Kevin Devoy, Manager, Procurement and Supplier Manager at Centrica.
That's right.
How are you, Kevin?
Fine, thank you.
We're here at the NOA End user event and summer party, and you just gave a presentation. Could you give us a little bit of the key messages from your presentation?
Yeah, certainly. I think two things really. One was to give a bit of an oversight really in terms of how we've approached looking at alternative locations, in particular around the voice elements. And then the other bit really was to talk about how we've tried to kind of recognise that we need to upskill the people that we have within our in-house teams around managing relationships, etc. So 10 minutes is not a huge amount of time to do that, but hopefully that got across. But really just trying to go through the kind of key issues around how we make decisions around selection criteria for countries, just really describing some of the tools and techniques that we have around helping to make the right decision, make an informed decision about where you place the business. And then effectively, what are the kind of key issues that we've seen in that area afterwards. There's a couple of pointers in terms of what the things to look out for downstream once you've gone into a particular location or a country, etc., and thinking about what the issues are.
And since we're talking about cultural issues, what can you tell us about managing cultural relationships? Do you employ a skilled team in-house to manage the outsourcing relationships effectively?
Yeah, we've got, for certainly our major outsourcing offshore, we have a dedicated team of people, certainly within British Gas, who look after that relationship. And I work very closely with those people from a procurement perspective to make sure that we drive the right kind of value from those relationships going forward. And as I said, I think in the presentation, one of the areas that we've developed over the last couple of years is a program looking at how we effectively manage those relationships. We put about 150 people through that at the moment. One of the key areas is around cultural elements. One is about managing conflicts. One is looking at how you influence. But the key message from the program is about putting us, or the people that are managing those partners, in their shoes, in their mind, effectively. So what are they looking for? What's their key challenges? What's their objectives from the deal, effectively? And making sure that they get that right level of engagement with those organisations going forward. One of the things we found, I think, is that certainly in offshore locations and relationships, you have to put a lot of time into it, and you also need to get a lot of senior stakeholders involved as well, because from a cultural perspective, that's what those organisations expect you to do. And so we've over time developed ways of building those types of issues, if you like, or cultural impacts into, for instance, renegotiations or points along the life cycle where we know there might be an interaction effectively, and making sure that we plan for that going forward.
And what do you think are the issues that are facing the outsourcing industry right now?
I think the key ones for me, is around I guess the consolidation potentially within the marketplace. I think we're beginning to see some of that happening now. I mean, obviously we saw some news the other day about HRO with Hewitts and Aon, etc. I think there's going to be more of that going on, which I think means that at the higher end, I think the choice that you've got in terms of some of the bigger players is going to reduce over time, which I think will make organisations probably a little bit more cautious, I think, about how they proceed. I think some of the big issues, I think, as well are how do you continue to drive value out of those partnerships as you go forward. I mean, in most of these scenarios, the big hit is the arbitrage as we move across into a new deal. But how do you actually start to really drive value from those suppliers? And part of it is relationship. So I think those for me are the two issues going forward that you have to address.
And in terms of going forward 18 months from now, what would you say, what do you think the biggest challenges are for the industry, and what are the trends that we're going to see evolving?
I think in terms of trends, I think we'll see a lot more organisations actually thinking about building their own capabilities again, probably on a smaller level. I think we've seen this kind of the cycle of captives and then moving away from captives and then people coming out of India for various reasons, etc. But I think one of the areas I think that organisations will look at is, the higher value end process. Is it worth doing that process offshore, but actually in their own captive? And I think a lot more of that will potentially take place. I think the other trend for me, or challenge if you like, is how do you move some of the commercial models forward? Because we're still very much stuck in the kind of FTE per hour, or very sort of basic pricing matrices. And how do we move into that outcome-based pricing area? We're trying it with some of our suppliers, but it's fairly innovative and it's fairly leading edge, and we're not seeing an awful lot more of it out in the marketplace. So, from our perspective, that's an area that potentially downstream has an impact on customer retention, customer image, customer satisfaction, etc. So we're driving that hard, but it would be nice to see more organisations, more supplier organisations moving into that and having a much more developed and mature approach to that type of commercial model.
And this is Kevin Devoy, Manager, Procurement and Supplier Management at Centrica. Thank you very much for joining us.
Okay.